Welcome to part 1 of my CompTIA Security Plus 701 practice exam series. In this video, I'll answer 20 practice exam questions in real time, formatted similar to what you'll see on the actual exam. Now, it's important to note that these are not questions from the real exam. They're just questions that are structured in a similar way to give you an idea on what to expect on the real exam. And while answering these questions, I'm going to also try my best to explain my thought process, as I believe that would be beneficial for anybody trying to pass their exam. All right, so enough talking. Let's see if you can get them right. Let's see if I can get them right, and let's get to it. All right, welcome to part 1. For your convenience, I'll add timestamps in the description so you can skip around to different questions or come back later to finish up, since this will probably be a longer video. Let's go ahead and jump right into question 1. Question 1. You are a security analyst at a company that recently transitioned to a cloud-based storage solution for its financial data. This new solution allows employees to access the data from any internet-connected device. However, you are concerned about the potential security risks associated with remote access. Which of the following controls would be most effective in detecting unauthorized access attempts to the financial data in the cloud? We have A, MFA, B, data encryption, C, IDS installed on company network, or D, physical security controls on the company server. All right. So for this one, it's important to note that in the question, it says most effective in detecting unauthorized access attempts. So the detecting there is the key word for this one. Only one of these options detects unauthorized access, and that would be C, IDS, so intrusion detection system. The only thing about the wording of this question is that it says financial data in the cloud, and this answer specifically says IDS installed on company network. So that's my only hesitation on this one. However, out of all of them, C is going to be the best option. So I'm going to go with C. Yep. An IDS deployed on the company network actively monitors for suspicious access attempts across the network, making it the most suitable control for detecting unauthorized access to the cloud-based financial data. Question 2. You notice a user's laptop displaying a suspicious website while walking by their cubicle. The company policy requires employees to report any suspected phishing attempts. What is the most important action to immediately take next? A, close the website on the user's laptop yourself. B, take a screenshot of the website and disconnect the laptop from the network. C, inform the IT department about the suspicious website. Or D, warn the user directly about the potential phishing attempt. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at these. So, like it says there, it's asking what is the most important action to immediately take next. So far out of all of these, the only one that makes the most sense based on the information that we have would be C, inform the IT department. We don't want to do A. I mean, we don't know what else is running on the laptop, and the user could, lose unsaved work. We don't want to do B. And the reason for this is because at this moment, we don't know if the website is confirmed a phishing attempt. And we will do D, just not immediately. So far, I'm going with C, and it also says the company policy requires employees to report any suspected phishing attempts. So C is going to align perfectly with that scenario. So I'm going with C. At this time, we are unsure if there is a real threat, but reporting a suspicious website to the IT department allows them to investigate thoroughly and take appropriate action, potentially protecting the entire network. Question 3. Your company is developing a new mobile app that will allow customers to securely access their account information. The app will transmit sensitive data such as social security numbers and credit card details. Which of the following cryptographic solutions is most appropriate to secure the communication between the app and the company's servers? A. MD5, B. DSA, C. SSL, or D. AES. Okay, so the key for this one here is that it's asking which is the most appropriate method to secure the communication between the app and the company's servers. So the key is to know which one as a whole supports a secure channel, right? So let's go ahead and go through them here. For A, message digest is a hash function that won't secure communication on its own. So it's not A. For B, digital signatures won't secure the communication on their own either. So it's not B. For C, secure socket layers so far is the best option. And then for D, AES, which is Advanced Encryption Standard, doesn't necessarily secure transmission on its own. So out of all of these, the only real answer here is SSL. So I'm going to go with C. SSL provides a comprehensive solution for securing communication by combining encryption, digital certificates, and key management, making it the most appropriate choice for protecting sensitive data transmission in this scenario. Question 4. You're a security analyst investigating a recent surge in spam emails targeting employees at your company. The emails appear to be from a legitimate vendor you work with, but the sender's email address has a slight misspelling. They contain a link that urges users to click to verify their account information. Which of the following techniques is this email campaign most likely leveraging? A. Denial of service attack. B. Phishing attack. C. Zero-day exploit. Or D. Brute force password attack. Okay, so it's a pretty easy one here. So emails that appear to be legit but have misspelling and a sense of urgency, things like that within the email to click a link or verify their account information is going to be a phishing attack. So I'm going to go with B here. Phishing attacks attempt to trick users into revealing sensitive information like login credentials by impersonating a trusted source, which is the vendor in this case. Question 5. Your company recently deployed a new web application for customer self-service. The application allows users to reset their passwords and update account information. Which of the following is most likely to be a vulnerability that could be exploited as an attack vector to gain unauthorized access to user accounts? A. Weak password requirements for user accounts. B. Lack of firewall on the web server. C. Outdated operating system on employee workstations. D. Physical security weaknesses in the server room. Okay, the question's longer than it needs to be, but it's another simple question. I want to point out that both the scenario and the question talks about user accounts and passwords. So with the given answers, only one of them makes the most sense, and that's going to be A, weak password requirements for user accounts. The other options could lead to issues, but there's not enough information in the scenario to make them a better answer. So I'm going with A. Weak password requirements, such as short passwords, simple dictionary words, make it easier for attackers to guess or crack passwords through brute force attacks, gaining unauthorized access to user accounts. Question 6. You are reviewing security logs for a web server and notice a significant spike in failed login attempts for administrator accounts. These attempts originate from various IP addresses and none of them succeed. What type of vulnerability is this scenario most likely indicative of? A. Buffer overflow vulnerability in the login application. B. Unpatched SQL injection vulnerability on the server. C. Brute force password attack targeting administrator accounts. Or D. Man-in-the-middle attack intercepting login credentials. Okay, so for this one, it's important to understand the different types of attacks and symptoms of an attack. This scenario says that there's a significant spike in failed login attempts for administrator accounts. So that means none of them are succeeding to, log in. The best answer here, given the scenario, would be C, brute force attacks. Yeah, a large spike in failed login attempts, especially where none of them are succeeding, suggests a brute force type attack. So I'm going with C for this one. A brute force password attack involves systematically trying different login combinations until successful. Question 7. You open an email attachment from an unknown sender, and your computer immediately displays a ransom message demanding payment to unlock your files. While you recognize the importance of acting quickly, you can't risk accidentally worsening the situation. What is the course of action you should take next? A. Immediately power down your computer. B. Boot into safe mode with networking and attempt to decrypt the files. C. Perform eradication procedures outlined in the incident response plan. D. Isolate the infected machine by putting it on an isolated network. All right, so there's two things here that are important that I want to mention. One being it's asking for a solution that doesn't possibly worsen the situation. And the other is we don't know 100% actually that there's a legitimate incident based on the scenario. We know there's a pop-up, but we don't know if it's actually infected. However, we don't, take chances. Out of all these options, regardless of it's a legitimate incident or not, we're going to isolate the infected machine. The other options would either make it worse, like option A or B, or we aren't in the incident response phase yet to complete, such as C. So I'm going to go with D for this one. By putting the infected machine on a separate network segment, we effectively quarantine it. This prevents malicious activity from worsening while an investigation is started. Yep. Question 8. A company uses a containerized architecture for deploying its microservices applications. Developers are concerned about potential security risks associated with this approach. When compared to a traditional virtual machine architecture, which of the following security concerns is most relevant to containerized deployments? A. Increased risk of privilege escalation attacks due to shared resources. B. Greater vulnerability to malware due to the lightweight nature of containers. C. Difficulty in isolating security incidents between different containerized applications. Or D. Increased attack surface due to the larger number of containers compared to VMs. All right, this is a good question. So to answer this one, it's important to understand the differences between a virtual machine and a containerized deployment. They share a lot of similarities, but there are some key differences. The main differences are that a virtual machine is going to be like a copy of an operating system. So it's going to be on a standalone operating system. And containerized deployments is like a lightweight package that shares the kernel, the same kernel as the host operating system. So they're going to use the same resources. So long story short, for efficiency, containerized deployments use the same resources. And I'm not talking about just hardware as the host operating system, while VMs just share the hardware resources. Anyway, with that said, the biggest concern out of these options With containerized deployments, I would say it's more difficult in isolating security incidents between the different containerized applications, because they're sharing all the resources, not just hardware like virtual machines. So I'm going to go with C on this one. Yep. Security incidents in one container can potentially spread to others if they share resources or have misconfigurations. This makes isolation of incidents a major consideration in containerized deployments. Question 9. A user reports that their laptop, which they use for work purposes, has been lost. The laptop contains some confidential customer data. Which of the following actions should you take immediately to minimize the risk of a data breach? A. Wipe all data on the lost laptop remotely using a data wipe utility. B. Change the password for all user accounts on the company network. C. Advise the user to report the lost laptop to the local police. Or D. Disable the user's company login credentials. Okay, this is a good example of a CompTIA question, actually. Technically, all 4 of these would be done in a real world scenario, but there is one option that is most important to do right away. And that would be A, wipe all the data. B and C are solid answers, but this isn't as important to do right away as wiping the device. And changing the password for all user accounts on the company network is, I don't know if they're referring to everybody in the company or just this person, but could be a little overkill. And I'm not going with D, although that would most likely happen next. I'm not going with D as in first because there's still a concern that data can be accessed on the device even with passwords changed or accounts disabled. So I'm going to go with A. Wiping the lost device remotely offers the fastest way to minimize the risk of a data breach, making it the most important action to take immediately. Question 10. A company is developing a new mobile app to allow customers to remotely manage their accounts. The app will transmit sensitive financial data. To ensure data security during transmission, which of the following security protocols would be most appropriate to implement? A. SSL. B. SSH. C. FTPS. Or D. ELS. Okay, I like this question. It's a great question, actually. It's kind of a tricky question, too. And just a heads up, kind of a tip here, CompTIA tip, for almost all the questions on the CompTIA exam, they're going to be similar to this, where there's going to be acronyms as the possible answers. So you definitely want to learn the acronyms. But let's go ahead and go through them. So for A, you have secure sockets layer. For B, you have secure shell. C, you have file transfer protocol secure. And D, you have transport layer security. Now, out of all of these, the best answer is going to be D, TLS. And the reason why is because TLS is a more secure version of SSL. And nowadays, when people refer to SSL, most of the time they are talking about TLS, right? They just don't know it. But SSH is for remote access. FTPS is secure for file transfers, but not data transmission in real time. So I'm going to go with D on this one. Yep. TLS is the current standard successor of SSL. It provides secure communication channels for data transmission over networks, making it ideal for protecting sensitive financial data exchange between the mobile app and the company's server. Question 11. A web developer notices a sudden surge in traffic to their company website. The website becomes sluggish and unresponsive. This unusual activity disrupts legitimate users from accessing the site. What type of malicious attack is most likely causing this disruption? A. Password spraying attack. B. SQL injection attack. C. DOS attack. Or D. Zero-day exploit attack. All right. Pretty straightforward question here. So a company website is becoming sluggish and unresponsive due to a sudden surge in traffic. Only one of these 4 attacks would best explain that, and that would be C, which is denial of service attack. Going with C. DOS attacks aim to disrupt website availability by flooding it with traffic. The sudden surge and sluggish performance point to a DOS attack as the most likely culprit. Question 12. A user reports that they are unable to access a critical internal company website on their laptop. They haven't made any changes to the website itself or their network configuration. What type of vulnerability is most likely causing this access issue? A. Zero-day exploit targeting a vulnerability in the website application. B. Social engineering attack tricking the user into visiting a malicious site. C. Misconfiguration of the user's laptop. D. Password cracking attack compromising the user's login credentials. Okay, well, this is kind of a weird one here. It's pretty vague. There's not a whole lot of information here. So far for me, it's between A and C. For A, it's because the scenario is pretty vague, actually. But my only problem with choosing this one is that based on the scenario, only one user is reporting it. If it was a zero-day exploit, then most likely there would be other people with the same issue. For C, it specifically says no changes made to the website or the network configuration, but it doesn't say they didn't change the laptop settings. So I'm just gonna base a real life scenario around this one, which is a really bad habit to do with CompTIA exams, but I'm gonna go with C, misconfiguration on the user's laptop. Now, I could be wrong, but I guess we'll see. Oh, yep. The sudden access issue coinciding with no updates to the web server or network points towards a potential zero-day network targeting a vulnerability in the website application. This is the most likely scenario given the limited information. Limited information is correct, yep. Question 13. A user calls the IT help desk reporting that their laptop has become extremely hot and the battery life has significantly decreased. Additionally, the laptop fan is constantly running at high speed. These symptoms are most indicative of what type of malware infection? A. Keylogger. B. Rootkit. C. CryptoMiner. Or D. Spam bot. Okay, so the question is basically asking which of these types of malware uses computer resources at like a very high level, like a max efficiency. Now, technically, I would say that only one of these would use a high amount of resources, and that's C, crypto miners. The other ones would use resources, but not as much. So I'm going to go with C. The high CPU usage from secretly mining cryptocurrency is the most likely explanation for the overheating, fan activity, and reduced battery life, making crypto miner the most fitting answer. Question 14. A small company with limited IT resources is looking for a network security solution that offers a balance between basic security and ease of management. They primarily use web browsing but don't have a complex network infrastructure. Which of the following network appliances would be the most appropriate choice for this scenario? A. UTM. B. NAT device. C. VPN appliance. Or D. Web content filtering appliance. Okay, so let's go through each one of these. Keep in mind the answer is going to be the one that is easy to configure and supports web browsing and some form of email security. So for A, Unified Threat Management Appliance, This will get the job done, but it is very expensive and it's not easy to configure, so that's out. B, network address translation device. This is actually the first time hearing of a NAT device. Usually it's done within your firewall configuration, but it wouldn't add the basic security that they're looking for this particular scenario. So ruling out B. For C, a VPN, so a virtual private network appliance. These are more for remote access and tunneling, so I'm going to rule that out. So that leaves us with D, web content filtering appliance. I'm going to go with this one. I mean, it filters the web browsing, it's cheap, and it's easy to configure. So going with D. Web content filters are ideal for blocking access to malicious websites and inappropriate content, making them a user-friendly solution for the web company's browsing. Question 15. A company has robust network security, but a ransomware attack encrypts their data. Backups exist, but restoring them takes long due to the lack of defined process. What is the most significant security gap in this scenario? A, weak encryption method standards. B, inadequate user training. C, insufficient user training. Or D, absence of a disaster recovery plan. Okay, so I want to mention something here. Doesn't really have anything to do with the exam, but every business or organization should assume that an incident will happen. The only variables are when, the severity, and how they respond, right? Now, this scenario states that there's a problem with how they restore their backups. So the answer will be which one responds the best, right? Or when it comes to the remediation, the recovery phase of it. Now, with that said, since there's a lack of a defined process when it comes to restoring systems back to the optimal business performance, I would say the security gap is the lack of a disaster recovery plan. So I'm going to go with D. While strong security can prevent some attacks, a well-defined disaster recovery plan ensures efficient data restoration and minimizes downtime even after a successful breach. The other options address preventative measures, not post-attack recovery. Question 16. A user calls the IT help desk reporting a suspicious email they received. The email appears to be from their bank and warns about unauthorized account activity. It includes a link for the user to verify their account information. What is the most important piece of advice the IT help desk representative should give the user in this scenario? A, click the link in the email and update their account information immediately. B, forward the email to the IT department for investigation. C, open the email attachment to view more details about the unauthorized activity. Or D, call the bank directly using the phone number listed on the bank's official website. Ooh, this is actually kind of a tough one. I want to point something out here. How it doesn't necessarily state, even though they use the company IT help desk, it doesn't necessarily state that the email is work related. It could be a personal bank, right? And also the question is asking for the best advice to give the person, not the next steps the IT help desk employee should perform. Now, it could be B if this was not an advice type question, or we know it was a company bank account. I would say it would be B, for the email to the IT department for investigation. A lot of IT departments look at potential phishing email. Common procedure they do. But I'm leaning towards D, call the bank directly using the phone number listed on the bank's official website, only because we don't know if it's a work-related, bank. It could be personal, and it's asking for advice. I could be wrong. I will probably be wrong, but I'm going to go with D on this one. Okay. Verifying information directly with the bank through a trusted channel, phone number from the bank's website, is the most crucial step to avoid falling victim to phishing scams and protect the user's account. Question 17. A company has identified a critical vulnerability in their web server software. This vulnerability could potentially allow attackers to remotely execute malicious code on the server. What should the company's next step be after identifying this critical vulnerability? A. Deploy a new web server with the latest software version to replace the vulnerable server. B. Conduct a security awareness training session to educate employees about the vulnerability. C. Update the firewall rules to block incoming traffic from suspicious sources. D. Check to see if there's a patch from the web server vendor. All right, so I would say pretty simple question here. In a situation like this, the immediate next step is to see if there's a patch for this vulnerability. The other options, aren't the worst options, but they wouldn't be the next option. That makes sense. So I'm going to go with D. Checking for a vulnerability software update with the vendor is the most immediate and effective way to address the critical vulnerability and prevent potential exploitation by attackers. Question 18. A company uses a SIM system to monitor network activity for suspicious events. The SIM generates numerous alerts daily, some of which are false positives. What is the most important action the security team should take to improve the effectiveness of the SIM system? A. Increase the severity level of all SIM alerts to ensure no threats are missed. B. Regularly review and fine-tune SIM filters to reduce the number of false positives. C. Implement additional security controls to decrease the overall network attack surface. D. Automate the patching process for identified vulnerabilities to swiftly address security risk. Okay, let's see here. So the key here is improving the effectiveness. And the scenario explicitly states and points out numerous alerts daily, some of which are false positive. And option B here would directly address that pain point. So I'm leaning towards B, fine-tuning the SIM filters. Very common, and it's a never-ending job in the real world. Could be wrong, but yeah, I'm going to go with B here. Regularly reviewing and fine-tuning SIM filters remains the most important action to reduce false positives and make the SIM system more effective in identifying real threats. Question 19. A company has identified a suspicious email campaign targeting employees. The email appeared to be from the company's CEO requesting employees to update their bank account information for direct deposit purposes. The IT team needs to investigate the source of the email campaign. Which of the following data sources would be most helpful in identifying the origin of the email campaign? A. User activity logs from employee workstations. B. Email server logs showing incoming and outgoing email traffic. C. Antivirus software logs from employee devices. Or D. Web browser history from employee workstation. All right, so a phishing campaign that seems to be from the CEO, right? So something to point out is that we don't know if it's actually from the CEO email, as in the CEO's email was compromised, or if it's a spoofed email disguised as. So when it comes to correlation of data when investigating emails, out of the given options, the best bet is going to be to look at the email server logs. That will definitely help, show where the email originated from. So I'm going with B. Email server logs provide the most valuable data for investigating the source of the email campaign by revealing details about the sender's email origin and facilitating further investigation. Question 20. A company is implementing a new cloud-based service for managing customer support tickets. The service integrates with the company's internal CRM system containing sensitive customer data. To effectively assess the security risks associated with this integration, which of the following should be the primary focus for the security team? A. Analyzing the security posture of the cloud service provider. B. Conducting vulnerability scans on the company's internal CRM system. C. Reviewing the access controls for the customer support ticketing system. Or D. Implementing data encryption for customer data at rest within the cloud service. Okay, so let's take a look at these. So security focus when it comes to the integration portion. So it's not A, the main focus is integration security, not the cloud service provider, I would say. And it's not B for the same reason as A. C is a good choice. D is also a good choice. However, I feel like C would be more important. Access control within the integration would be a priority over data encryption in the CRM, especially when integration is concerned here. So I'm going to go with C. I could be wrong. I'm going to go with C on this one. Reviewing access controls for the ticketing system is most critical as it directly addresses how the integration with the CRM system might introduce vulnerabilities or expose sensitive customer data through improper access permission. All right, well, that was all of them from Series 1. Well, Part 1, I should say, for the 701 series. If you like it, leave a thumbs up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you want to see more, I will be doing more of this in this series here, so go ahead and subscribe. But thank you for sticking around.